everybody. This is Trym from Emperor, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 241 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I have the honor and the privilege to speak with Trym Torson from the legendary Emperor and probably a plethora of other bands. So, how you doing today, man? Glad to have you on.
Well, thank you, Richard.
Anytime, man, anytime. So, kind of like the format of the show is I want to talk about like your musical history and do a rundown of your discography, but take you back to young Trym Torson. So, kind of growing up in Norway, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to start playing the drums?
Well, the very first band I remember, that blew my mind was probably Kiss. So yeah, Kiss was a major fact for me to start listening to more heavy kind of music, and then you know, I listened to bands like I don't know, Twisted Sister, Dio, Black Sabbath. The kind of general heavy metal. And then later on, Metallica, Slayer, and more heavier bands, and yeah, especially when I discovered Slayer, I think I knew there was no turning back.
Yeah, Dave Lombardo's the man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So kind of like I was doing my research, I believe your first band was called Ceremony. Like tell me about that because I'm digging deep. Like nobody ever talks about Ceremony.
I never played in a band called Ceremony.
Oh, really?
No,
Eh,
no. I mean, I played with Eva from Enslaved before we started Enslaved, but that I can't really remember what the band. It was just like a fun project, I guess. I guess we were quite young and learning to play and all that stuff there. So, yeah, we didn't have any ceremony in band that I can recall.
so frickin' Metal Archives lied.
Yeah, 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 that's. I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, so I guess kind of jumping into Enslaved. So how did you get to know Ivar and Grutley?
So Eva, I knew since he was probably like 10 years old. So I knew him from a very young age. And we got together and started playing with some other guys. And then he was invited to play in a band together with Grüttler. And that's how they met. And and when they kind of quit playing, Eva called me and asked if I were interested in joining. They were starting a band. I don't believe they had a name at that point, but they knew that they wanted to do some more like heavier stuff and get some Viking inspiration. And yeah, and of course I said yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I know you played like locally around like Norway and stuff, and then of course Candlelight Records find Enslaved. So how did they find Enslaved?
I think it was actually Eva who sent a lot of demos out for review, and it was different back then because you have to record a demo and then just pass it around and hope somebody would pay attention, and they did, kind of like. And we were sort of, we were also good friends with the guys from Emperor, so it was cool to make a split with them.
Yeah. And then yeah, which was the Emperor Hordane's land.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then tell me about making like the first full-length album. Forgive me if I butcher it. Vikingsligur Veldi. Dude, what was
Yeah.
like the thought process going into making this album?
It was a lot about, you know, um, feelings. You know, it wasn't so much about like, technical stuff and stuff like that. It was more about like getting like emotions and like I guess grand, vast feelings. Um, Influenced a lot about nature, and so you can also tell about the arrangement of the songs. A lot of the themes went on and on and on just to sort of, yeah, get that sort of flow going. um and I guess we were all, I mean, we were still young, and still experimenting with different kind of styles and genres. I guess we didn't have like really found our proper, way that how we want to have stuff. So yeah, it was fun though, it was everything sort of was possible. We didn't have any sort of like that we can't do this or that. We just did what felt natural for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and when this album first came out, did you start like touring outside of Norway for the first time, or was it still just kind of local?
We played some local shows, and then I can't remember if we released the second album before our first tour with the Marduk. I remember. I believe the first tour we did was in 1994
Yeah.
with Marduk, and Frost. I can't remember if that was even released back then.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah,
I think they both came out the same year, didn't they?
they came out. I think it was like 95 and 96, probably.
Yeah. Because it says
Yeah.
like it's just
So
like there's like a few months difference.
yeah. So yeah. So the first tour we did was a European tour with Marduk. It was 30 shows or something like that. And that was a
Wow.
really sort of steep learning curve for everybody, because at that time we just played maybe 2 or 3 shows. And yeah, and I guess when we toured, of course we learned a lot from the Marduk guys because they already toured before. But also it was a really good learning experience for us as a band. I think we got better as musicians and better to play together. So as a unity, I think that really made us better going on that tour.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like with any bands like starting out, I feel like every band's like first tour is always like a learning experience. You sort of like learn like, okay, we need to show up at the venue at this time to get our shit on stage and set everything thing up, and then sound check and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
thing. So yeah, and then tell me about Frost, because usually with the debut album you have like your entire life to write, and there's a lot of hype with the first album. When it came to time to making Frost, did you feel like pressure to follow up the debut album?
No, not really, because already at that time we had quite a lot of the material for that album ready. So and I think we all, went in a direction that we really did like. We was kind of starting to really push the boundaries. We wanted to make some heavier stuff, some fast stuff, and I think we kind of explored way more on the Frost album. I certainly really enjoyed the way things were going at that point. So for me, that was, we were getting better as musicians as well. So that helped, we could start exploring things that we probably didn't know how to explore when we were sort of more inexperienced.
Yeah.
But all in all, yeah, that album sort of, I felt like finally now things are really going in the way that I especially liked.
Yeah. And this year does mark the 30 years anniversary of both the first two Enslaved albums. So do you have like a certain feeling about these albums now as opposed to when you first put them out?
If I have a different feeling, or
Yeah, just pretty much how you felt about it then is different than how you feel about it now.
yeah, because now, I mean, it's so long ago, I can't even remember hardly, how it even came about. It was, when you're young, you just like you have this, I don't know, extreme energy, and you just keep going. There is no obstacles. Everything is just like a train, that's not stopping.
Yeah.
So I probably have a more sort of my uh, analytic view on the album. If I would listen to it now, I would probably like, oh, why did I do this, or why did I do that, or why didn't we do? Yeah. So that's always something when you sort of done on an album, when you listen back to it, I tend to sort of like, oh fuck, why didn't I do this? And yeah.
Yeah, because I always feel like
But
you're saying.
yeah, so but I would probably actually now, since it's been so long, I would probably more enjoy it like I sort of experienced it in a new way, I guess, because I haven't heard it for for many years.
Yeah, they pretty
So
much
I
both
would,
came out the year I was born. So
oh yeah, there you go.
yeah.
So yeah, I probably, I hope I would really enjoy listening to it now, because now it would be sort of a new beginning for me to listen to those songs, and oh shit, remembering how things were. I usually enjoy that.
Yeah. But then you started touring a little bit, but then it was in 1995 you actually had left Enslaved. So how hard was it to leave Enslaved?
It was, the thing is, we, after that first album, we went on a pretty hard tour in the US.
Oh,
With
wow.
it was with yeah, it was Suffocation, I believe, and not Incantation, I mean,
Yeah.
and Apsu, and yeah, there were a few bands on that bill. It was a really
What a
hard tour.
lineup.
Yeah, it was more bands as well. Cataclysm, they were also there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we were supposed to go to Mexico and play a couple of shows. I can't remember. That was the original plan, but a week before the tour, or actually a week before we were supposed to go to Mexico, the other bands just said like, "Oh, fuck it, this is, it's not working." I think it was John John McEnroe, the lead guitar player for Incantation, who sort of arranged that whole tour, and the other bands were really not happy with how the arrangement sort of went on. So they said like, "Fuck it, we're leaving." So we basically just went with Apsu guys to Dallas, where they lived, and we sort of arranged for a show with Enslaved and Apsu. And there were some guys from Mexico that came and asked if we wanted to come to Mexico and play a couple of shows there. Like it was probably 5, 6 shows or something like that. And we said like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And we went to Mexico, and it was fucking hell on earth. And we barely made it back home, actually. And yeah, that sort of ruined the whole spirit of the band, I guess.
Yeah.
And I left like just a couple of weeks after we came home from Mexico.
Yeah. So that was like your first time in the US. So what was
Yeah.
like seeing, because I know you did like show in Texas. So what was that experience like being in America?
I love the whole American experience, to be honest. I think Mexico was great as well. It was just like I wouldn't even call it the promoter, but this guy who sort of arranged the whole Mexico thing it was a ripoff. He just wanted us to come, and it was really bad. But the people were fucking amazing. That was a really sort of great experience for all of us, to come there and see how crazy people actually were.
Yeah. Yeah, but then in between like leaving Enslaved and before you joined Up Emperor, you did the Imperium demo from 1996 with Imperium. So tell me about like that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was just some friends of mine, because I moved to a place called Stavanger, where the Gehenna guys were living. So I actually did rehearsing with Gehenna at that time, because they had some, I don't know, some beef issues with their current drummer. Uh, and so I started to play with some other guys there. Um, and I don't think we had like any special ambition. I think we just want to, play and have some fun. So that was just something I did while I was living there.
All right. And then in 97 you joined Up Emperor. So how did you get to know like Ishan and Samoth and everybody in the camp?
Like I said before, we already knew Emperor from before. Me and Eva had been up there on visit, I think on several occasions, and they had also played some shows with us where we live, so we knew them from before. So not long after I quit with Enslaved, Samat called me and asked if I were interested in, come and play with them. And of course I said yes. So I went up and rehearsed with at that time it was just Ishan and Oliver on bass. So the three of us just, got together and rehearsed for a couple of the new songs they were working on. I believe it was like E Interest Superium and a couple of more songs. And that was like really like like to be honest, the direction Enslave was going when I quit was really not the direction I wanted to go. But when I came and started rehearsed with Emperor, that was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. So that for me, that was a perfect band to join.
Yeah. Were you kind of like nervous joining the band, like taking over Faust's place? Because were you like listening to like in the Night Side Eclipse, be like, this is what I need to play, or did you want to like bring something new rhythmically to Emperor that they didn't have before?
Yeah, I wasn't really nervous, no, because I knew them from before. I knew that they were like really good guys and also good musicians. I knew Ishan was a fucking brilliant guitar player with some brilliant ideas. So I was excited to kind of hear the new material and I was just like, oh, I couldn't grab my hands fast enough to start playing with them. So no, that was, I mean, of course, I think like the way Faust plays on the In the Night Side Eclipse is like, I think that's a perfect of for that album. I wouldn't have done it any other way that what he did. But when I hear the new material, I instantly felt like, okay, this is totally different. So now I can just like, just go for it. It was way more brutal, way more aggressive. So that was, I guess, my approach for that whole album. Just like go fucking, all in.
Yeah. And so tell me about making Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk. I like this album. I thought this was a great follow-up to In the Night Side Eclipse. So being that this was your first record with the band, so what was like the recording process like for you playing the drums?
Well, basically we rehearsed. I live quite far away from the guys, so I have to come up on weekends and just rehearse the whole weekend. And then when all the songs were sort of ready, we just booked the Greg Hall recording studio, and I believe I spent 2 days with the drums. The usual that's how it used to be. First day is just getting the drum set up and getting all mics and sound, good to go. And then the second day is just get through each song, and then I'm done. So it was a very quick process. You know, these days, you probably would have recorded every song probably 10 or 20 times. But at that time, it wasn't about perfection at all. So there was a lot of like errors and mistakes, but there it was more about the feeling, the aggressivity, and oh, it was not about having anything perfect. We just wanted to have the sort of chaos and madness that sort of the songs represented.
Yeah. Yeah, and sort of like after you did like Anthems of the Welcome at Dusk, so what was like the touring like for the album? Like what were some like like your favorite like tours from the album cycle?
So yeah, we did not like big tours. I think most of the tours we did after the album was sort of like a couple of weeks, mostly in Europe. I believe the first American tour was in 1999. I know we did some festivals, like we played probably a couple of festivals, and then mostly European tours before we went to the US. And to be honest, it was different coming on the US tour, because in most European tour you have like a nightliner, a bus, so you have your bunk, you can go to sleep. Well, you could try at least. Usually it's party until the morning, but um, at least you have a sort of a space to stay. But on most American tours we did, well, actually every American tour we did, we just had a van and just, trying to sleep on the floor and everywhere on the van. It's yeah, it's not the best options or the best way to be ready for a new show. But back then that was the only thing we knew.
Yeah. Yeah, and did you ever like like those US tours? Did you ever play like the old Masquerade in Atlanta, Georgia back in the day?
Atlanta, sure. I have no idea.
Yeah, because I know, at the old Masquerade, they used to have like to load in your stuff. They have like a little like thing where like a little like elevator thing, and then they actually have like some like people rope, and they would actually like pull the rope to like get your stuff, get
Oh,
like band's gears on
no.
the.
No, I don't think I can. I mean, I think I would remember if there was some sort of load and
Yeah,
manually elevator. Yeah,
yeah,
no, I
that's
don't
how it
think
was at
we
the
played it.
old location.
Atlanta. To be honest, I don't think we ever played in Atlanta.
Huh. All right. But then tell me about making the next album, Equilibrium. And this year does mark the 25th anniversary of this album. So I wanted to know what was like
Oh.
the thought process going into making this, coming off of like classics like In the Night Side, Eclipse, and Anthems.
Yeah. I the Just we just didn't want to sort of copy ourselves. So we were sort of exploring different kind of things, I guess. We didn't want it to just like, keep going on with the same thing. Um, so most of the material here were sort of rehearsed in a different way, I would say, than before. We were looking at the arrangement in a more sort of different way, instead of like having sort of, I don't know, basic and regular song setup. We wanted to explore more, being more, I don't know, um, not so common, I guess, in the way of making a song. Um, and also everybody was getting, I don't know, more technical, I would say, maybe. So we could also explore different kind of styles and genres. Um, so I felt kind of that we were like, I don't know, going in a different direction here,
Yeah. It's a
especially
lot more
from if you
technical
look at,
sounding.
yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, touring also, like before, helped us, to be better musicians and become more sort of like a unit. So I think maybe on this album, we I felt like we were thinking more like a band and less sort of individuals. Um, and I guess I guess we were still young though, but I felt like we were becoming a bit more mature, probably. Um, but the main feeling and basic ideas were not that far from what we originally had on the first two albums either. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. And then, of course, the last Emperor album, Prometheus, The Discipline of Fire and Demise. I thought this was a really good album and pretty much a very underrated album. So, what was the making of this album like, being that this was the last Emperor album?
Yeah, that was really a lot of different from before, because on this album it was basically Ishan who made all the material, and we really never rehearsed as a band either on this album. Um, I know Ishan asked if someone even had some ideas or had some riffs that he wanted to bring along, but I don't know if he felt like what he was making, or didn't have any particular thing that he wanted to use on this album. But yeah, this whole album was made mainly by Ishan. So I think yeah, we rehearsed one time, just me and Ishan, just to go through some sections. So I would actually rehearse this whole album by myself. I had like a click track with a piano, and then and that was the whole thing. So I actually didn't know how the album will be until we recorded it, and then I was like, oh shit, okay, so this is how it is. So I remember I was quite surprised when I heard it. It was way different than I would expect it to be,
Yeah.
and I instantly wanted to have change stuff when I heard all the guitars and all the keyboards and all the arrangement. Uh, but then again, you know, you just go with the flow.
Yeah. And I think this album is totally different from like the other Emperor albums. I think it's like the most
Oh yeah,
experimental Emperor album with sort of like more symphonics and then with the clean vocals. It sounds different compared to like the previous albums.
yeah, definitely, it definitely does. And that was also something, especially because at that time Isham was sort of, he wanted to explore different kind of thing, and you can already tell on the first albums that the solo albums he did, that this album sort of is quite similar to what he was doing on his solo stuff. So that was his direction of music that he wanted to explore at that time. But still, there's a lot of like really cool songs that I enjoyed listening to on this album as well.
Yeah. And then of course there was after that album the band called it a day. So how hard was it to like end everything for the Emperor?
Uh, it was difficult in a way, yeah, because this now have become sort of, you know, so big part of our lives. But then again, we knew actually before this album was recorded that this will be the end. Um, so me and Salmat already started to work on some different kind of music, because we, as you could tell, had different opinion of what kind of music style we wanted to do. So Ishan, he wanted to go more exploring different kind of, you know, musical themes and sounds and stuff like that. While me and Salmat, we were heading for more like aggressive. I wouldn't even say like black metal, no death metal style, but we definitely wanted to have some more sort of like heavier, more like direct, brutal kind of music.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was sort of like the I guess the beginnings of Zyklon. So how'd you end up forming like Zyklon with you and Samuth?
Uh, yeah, so that's yeah, when we came to the point that we were sort of quitting with Emperor, me and Summer, I mean, we were just getting started. I mean, none of us wanted to quit playing music, and we both wanted to go in the same direction. So that's when, you know, we started to talk about, you know, making different kind of music, and who else would be, you know, good to join us. I guess we needed some cool frontman for vocal. We needed you know, a heavy guitar player, and then a bass player. So we started to look for people.
All right. And then tell me about like making like the first Zyklon album, World of Worms. So what was like the thought process like being like it was like a new band, like the first album, like how did that whole thing came to be?
Ooh, yeah. To be honest, I can't really remember much of the whole process there. I just remember that you know, we wanted to have a really sort of cold, aggressive sound and style. We wanted to have it sort of, I wouldn't even say clinical, but I want some industrial feelings to it. Not so. analog, but not digital. So I think, of course, today we would definitely do things different, but at that time, that's the direction and the way we wanted to have it done. And when we got Destructor from Mørkskog to join us, it was sort of easy to go on, because he is he is a really force of unbelievable guitarists and solos. So it was just like, okay, just make whatever you want, because everything he made sounded amazing. And then of course when we got Demon from Nocturnal Art, no, Blackout Total, on vocal, then we knew this is going to be something different than we definitely all of us have done before.
Yeah. And I think it's a really great debut album. It still holds up to this day. So what was like the album cycle like for World of Worms?
Yeah, so now it sort of changed for after that album. We definitely wanted to I don't know, get a better sort of sound. I felt the idea we had on the first album was difficult to get sort of a cleaner sound. So that's always something you have to sort of fight against when you make sort of extreme records, and you wanted to make it, I don't know, chaotic, but without like losing the details. And I felt like we were really on edge on the first album, but on the second one, I
Yeah.
felt things were definitely getting, more in the style that we felt everything was more connected. Everything, and also we used Fredman in Sweden for the whole mixing of this album, and that definitely helped as well.
Yeah, because I think
Uh,
Aeon's a good follow-up to World of Worms.
yeah, that's actually my favorite album, because
Me
I
too.
felt like the sound there is, I love the way he managed to sort of keep it aggressive, make it, chaotic, but still everything sounds more balanced and more sort of natural, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was a really good experience to come and have another guy's view on things, and especially his experience, getting all sounding good together.
Yeah. But I know you also do some session work, because I know that same year, 2003, you did the Frozen EP from Shadow Season. So tell me about like that, and how'd you hook up with those guys to play drums
Oh,
on their EP?
yeah, how did I hook up with those guys? I just remember I was contacted by them, I guess through email. Um, and then I can't really remember the whole process, I ended up recording them. I just remember that I, s- that if I wanted to, if I was going to record for them, it needed to be in the same recording studio that we used for recording with Emperor and Cyclone, because that was really close to where I live. And they agreed, and I believe actually they came to the studio when I was recording. But I think I just had like they sent the files with the guitars, so it was just sort of playback that I recorded on top of, uh, and yeah, and I think we had a discussion about one or two parts that they had like a really clear thought on what they wanted to have on those two parts. And the idea they had was actually really close to what my idea on that part as well. So it was, yeah, I was just get through the whole album. I can remember how many songs, a couple of 3 or 4 songs I remember,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I haven't listened to that since I recorded it, so I have no recollection of the songs, unfortunately.
All right. And then going back to Zyklon in 2006, you did the last album, Disintegrate. And I thought that was a good like way to like end Zyklon's run. So what was it like making that album?
Yeah, so now we're also like with Emperor, we're sort of we didn't I wouldn't say like experience and try different things so much. I think we sort of found more or less with Eon especially. I think we found like the parts and the style that we wanted to continue with. So I would say this is just like a continuation of Eon, and I guess we're also sort of happy with Eon that we just wanted to follow the same recipe, I would say. And I can't remember that we really wanted to sort of explore different styles of stuff here either. We just, we this is what we like, this is what we want to do, um, and that's what we did. But uh, not, I mean, I remember when we first got the CD, I wasn't disappointed, but I felt like Eon was sort of a little bit better. I felt sound on Eon was, just the way we wanted it. And on this, it's not bad at all, but it wasn't the same. Of course, we didn't want to make it the same, but at least we wanted to have it at least just as good, or I mean, hopefully a little bit better.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna close this. So yeah, but all in all, I mean, we were really happy about it. But yeah, Eon was definitely our favorites. I think everybody's.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know also that same year, 2006, you did Evolution Hour for by Paganize. So tell me about like that band.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's also some local friends from the area here I was playing with. And we just played regular heavy metal. I believe we started playing like cover songs of like Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, and that kind of style. Um, and then we started to make our own songs. We did actually make a demo at one point, and uh, and then um, and then I actually called Steve, I believe, from Candlelight when we had almost all songs ready for the album, and 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 call and wanted to see if it would be interesting for them to release something like that. So I can't remember if I sent him the demo with it, but he said, yeah, sure, no problem, and so we did that, and yeah, that's the only thing we did.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I know going into 2008, you also did some more session stuff. You did probably one of my favorite albums, In the Shadow of the Thousand Suns by Abigail Williams. I know you played drums on a few songs. So how'd you end up recording some drums on some of the songs on this album?
So that was actually Darren Toms from Candlelight that called me, and said like, hey, would you be interested in recording some songs for this American band? And at that time, to be honest, I wasn't interested in doing any session work. Um, I didn't really know the band. I mean, it doesn't matter what band it is. I was, yeah. But since Darren called me, I was like, okay, he's he would always, if I would ask him of anything, he would always, say yes and help me out. So I said, sure, I'll help you out, because I believe it was like sort of his project that he wanted to have done, because they were on kind of like record, I believe then. Um, and then I was just sent all the guitar files and click track, and did the same recording in the same recording studio. I can't really remember if I ever like sort of have a discussion about what sort of how the drum should be, to be honest. No, I can't remember. I think yeah, I wouldn't say if there was some drum machine recording that sort of made it basic for how they wanted the songs. But I remember I talked with James Murphy a couple of times, because he was the guy who was producing that album. And so I remember there were some issues with the files I sent, so I have to I can't remember if I just have to record or what we did, but yeah, I basically went in the studio, recorded everything, and sent them, and then I I actually initially recorded all the songs, but then they had like a new drummer, I guess, and he recorded a couple of songs that I used for the album. So yeah.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to also talk about Nodditon Stars project. So tell me about like that, because I don't think nobody ever talks about that.
Not on All Stars.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what that is,
Yeah, I
to be
think it was
honest.
I have no idea. It was like listed as something thing in your past bands on Metal Archives. I think it was like probably like some people in Norway like jamming together.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I've played with different kind of people around. It could have been just I there is one show I remember I did with different kind of people from different kind of genres. There was a really great blues guitar player who just recently passed away. And there was this really brilliant sort of power metal vocal guy who he was like yeah, he was like a sort of like Deep Purple, Rainbow sort of style vocal, and a couple of other guys who were in different kind of heavy metal, and yeah, so that's just something that happened once, I believe.
All right.
um yeah, it just, I mean, there are some local bands, there are some cover bands who play, just cover songs and stuff like that. um so I've joined them occasionally when they're sort of missing a drummer. But yeah, but that's something just that is never sort of organized, other than they need a drummer or they need a guitar player, and they call and ask who's available.
All right.
But
And then
it
kind
was
of
never a project.
yeah, and then kind of like backtracking a little bit, because I know in 2005 or five, and I know it's been on and off, like Emperor sort of like got back together for some performances. So what made you guys decide to come back?
What made us decide to come back? Yeah. I don't know what initially what I think it was just time, I guess. Um Sort of we'll after touring and being together 24/7, you come to a certain point where you sort of like, oh yeah, you feel like you want to move on to do something different. But I think uh everybody was in a good place. We all had like sort of done different things. Ishan, he's been doing his solo project. and he was sort of, he's getting sort of a good catalog, and and me and Samet, we all did, Cyclone, and when Cyclone quitted, I guess we were all available to look at, the possibilities of doing maybe just. I think initially it was just meant to be a couple of like shows, because uh, we never got to play any live shows of the last album. So I think that was also a little part in it, play at least one song from that album. And then our tour manager, he was in contact with Wacken, and said like, okay, so if you can get the guys together, we're gonna have them on the main stage for the Wacken show. And that was in itself quite tempting, because at that time I think Wacken was the biggest sort of festivals for bands like this, and I guess we all felt like, okay, this is now, much better. Everything is so much better organized. We have a crew. We don't have to do everything ourselves, because that was something we all got sort of tired of when touring. It's, I mean, playing a show is exhausting enough, but then all the traveling, all the loading, rigging everything up and down, and so when the conditions were sort of much better, and we could have like a proper crew, and we didn't have to do all the hard work. We could mainly focus on what was going on stage. Then we sort of, okay, felt like, oh, this is, now it's actually fun to start playing live again.
Yeah. And what was like for you playing live with Emperor again? Were you kind of like nervous at all with that first show back?
No, not really. I was more, no, not nervous. I was more excited, I would say, sort of felt like now we can actually show that we are, a decent live band, and we can, play on a bigger venue with hopefully better sound, and people can hopefully enjoy the band, as it was supposed to be in the early days. But if you have crappy sound, it's hard to enjoy anything, I would say.
Yeah, totally. And I remember even seeing Emperor live for the first time in 2022. You played the Psycho Las Vegas Fest, and that was my first time so far, only time seeing Emperor. So seeing you guys
Ah.
live is different than like listening to you guys. So how different of a mind frame is it to like playing live versus like recording? Is there any like similarities or differences between the two?
Um, I think like the difference used to be bigger before, I would say, because now um, the way the way we set up things for a live show is pretty similar to how we would do recording. So so now so before it was just about, getting through the songs. Um, you know, there was no click track, there was no backtrack, there was just like usually just one guitar. It was when we played with Emperor, Ishan and came into the same room or played the guitar together with me, and I would just like get through the song, and that was it. But now we have like a click track, and everything is sort of organized, uh, as you would probably do now in a recording session. So and also if you do pre-productions, you sort of have like so much more things ready. So, and now I also use like an in-ear monitor system, which makes it way more easy for me to have control of everything what's going on, because now I can hear the guitar so much clearer. And it's much more closer now. When I play a live show, it's much more closer to an actual recording. It's not so yeah, the difference is quite small actually. Yeah, of course, we're having the feedback from the audience is also a factor that it's really difficult to copy at all in the studio. You don't have that feedback. So even though most of those you're so tired, you feel like you just want to survive and not pass out. But then the feedback from the audience is many times what keeps you going, and you see how crazy they are and how much this means for them, and that's make you just okay, fuck it, just I'm going through this, and if I die, I die.
All right. And I know like last year you did like a small like US run with Emperor last year, and I sadly almost was going to go to Chicago, but I couldn't make it. So what are some like
Yeah.
the next touring plans for Emperor? Are you going to do some more shows in the US? Is there a chance maybe you'll come to the East Coast, specifically Atlanta? Fingers crossed.
So I know our tour manager is working on something for next year, but there is nothing planned as of now. Um, but I think that sort of mini tour we did was really successful. I think we all really enjoyed that trip because it was well organized. It was amazing venues. The audience was even more amazing. So all in all, we were really happy about that whole run. And so yeah, if we get an offer to come back and do a similar thing, I think we will all be up to that
Yeah, and
for sure.
I'll buy tickets in a
Yeah,
heartbeat.
yeah. But what venues and what cities that I have no idea. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who's like, oh, come to this place or come to whatever. But it's really not up to us. I mean, we something what we sort of decided when we were doing this final touring thing again, or live show, that we would try and not just play the same places that done before. uh you know um we wanted to try and go different places.
Switch things up.
uh yeah, so whenever we sort of get an offer from a place we haven't been before, we always like, oh yeah, sure, I'm ready whenever. But then again, if there is no promoters for a city or a venue that want to book us, then there is no chance that we are coming either.
All right. That's fair enough. And kind of wanted to switch topics because I know you also have the project God of Atheists. I'm always curious about that. Like, what's the status with that band? Like, nobody ever talks
Oh
about
my
it.
God. Uh, I can't even remember when I recorded the album. That's so long ago. So that's Oscar. That's his project. And I know for a fact he haven't played any guitar, anything for many years now. I know that he initially, not long after I recorded the drums, he recorded most of the guitars, I think. He also had this. Oh, I'm running out of gas. He also had this. There was this female violinist, I think, that plays some violin and stuff like that. But I have no clue. To be honest, I would be surprised if that album will ever be released.
Yeah, it'd be like
So
their Chinese Democracy by Guns N' Roses.
yeah, yeah. So I I think you have to call him, or ask him at least. 'Cause, and the poor, well, not poor thing, but the sad thing about it is, like, I remember that there was really really good songs there. I mean, there was some extremely difficult drum parts. I remember I was like, holy fuck, I wasn't even sure I was get through that shit. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, it was never released, and I just hope that someday maybe he will manage to, get something together,
All
because
right.
yeah, the material is definitely something to check out.
Yeah. And then I know last year you also did Primer. I can't even say the name of it. So how'd that come to be?
What was that?
Primer, it's Prymr.
Oh, you're talking about my solo project.
Oh yeah, that. So yeah, so kind of like talking about that, like what made you decide to like do like a solo kind of like thing?
So initially, I just wanted to. I had an idea for a sort of I would say a movie theme sort of aspect. Um, I wanted to explore theme and soundscapes more than just playing regular, I guess, drums and regular music. Um, so I made first one song called. It was a Norwegian title, but it translates like for like the funeral. I would say so. It was sort of a Viking funeral themed. I made and then my head starts spinning about okay, so if there's a funeral, there needs to be something before, and there needs something to be something after. And I made up this whole story about this Viking village. Uh, so this album will be released this fall, and it will just be like a an imaginary movie themed album.
Awesome. And so how different of a mind frame is it for like a solo project compared to like when you work with like bands like Enslaved and Emperor and Zyklon? How different of
Oh
a
yeah.
mind frame is it compared to like working as a band versus
Uh,
solo?
it's a different world. I mean, it's can't even compare because when you're playing with other people and you're playing, I would guess when you play regular instruments, you sort of have you have sort of a frame of what you're doing. But when you start messing around with all kind of soundscapes, there's I guess no limits, um, and that can be great, but also scary because it's so easy to sort of get lost in sounds and ideas and it's I would say it's way more scary to do something on your own because you don't have any references to you know what the other guys in the band like. There is always sort of a teamwork, but working on your own, it's really it's yeah, it's daunting and terrifying. But in a way, then you can just do whatever you like. And to be honest, this project is by far the most daring thing I ever done by miles.
All right. And kind of wanted to talk about like your drumming because I think you're, in my opinion, one of the most underrated metal drummers of all time. So kind of like when it comes to like playing drums or recording drums, do you usually need to hear what the guitars are doing in order to lay down your parts, or do you usually have like a whole drum part written and the rest of the band writes according to that?
Uh, the way we usually used to do this with Emperor was like if we had a guitar part, I actually always ask the guitar player what his thought when he made that guitar part. Well, when you make a part, you always have some sort of beat or rhythm when you start making that part, and usually that is something I try to be as close to as possible.
Yeah.
And then I start exploring and see if if I switch the beat or if I play it faster or slower, would it make the beat or the theme be better or worse? So I always try to I initially start with the first idea or thought that whoever made the part have, and then I start exploring, and usually I end up quite close to what the first idea was
Yeah.
because it's often it's all I learned by when you get older. It's not about um, an ego trip, which I think a lot of drummers tend to do, and try to focus on the musicality of the song. What makes a better purpose for the song
Yeah.
and the theme.
Yeah, and not to talk shit, but have you ever heard like riffs and you ever wondered like how off time it could be with the drums?
Uh, Come again?
Yeah, yeah. You ever worried like when you hear a riff and you already have like a different drum pattern? You ever worried like how off time it is?
How off time the drum is?
Yeah, yeah. If you hear like a riff that's sort of like different like tempo wise to like the drum pattern.
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes that can actually work as well. But I don't know. For my, I guess I have a certain way of how I like how the drum should be when I hear a guitar riff. But if I hear a guitar, I instantly, I guess I instantly start thinking about drums. And sometimes, well, quite often, I think the drums are quite similar to what I would do, but sometimes they are like way off, and that can be also quite cool if it's done properly. But it can also be a really turn off for me as well.
And then the final question I wanted to ask you is talk about like your drum setup. I'm always curious like what kind of drums you play, like sticks, cymbals, pedals, and all that stuff.
Okay, so now I usually play pearls, those drums. Either reference pure or reference pearl drums, which I think sounds amazing. Um, I use the Remo. Usually, I use the Remo coated Emperor heads. They still have the attack as the clears, but they also is easier to tune because they don't vibrate so much. And I use Wick Firth drumsticks. I use the 2B with a nylon tip. I use trick pedals, and I use Sabian cymbals.
Awesome. Some and so kind of like in the end to sort of wrap things up, what's next for you with Emperor or any other projects that you're involved with?
So the next I'm doing now, we are playing live shows throughout the year with Emperor. I'm actually currently in the process of making game music for a pretty big game that will be released probably in 2 or 3 years' time. And I'm also finishing this my solo project, which will be released in this fall, October, November probably. And then we are also, looking for possible to play some more shows next year with Emperor as well.
Awesome. So thank you, Trym, for this interview. It's great to have Emperor on my show finally. It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
No, I just want to thank everybody who comes to the shows and who have, supported us all these years. I guess every musician say the same, but I think that our fans are just amazing. We're so lucky to have, these amazing followers and loyal followers all over the world. So yeah, thank you all.
Awesome. So everybody, Trym Torson from Emperor. See you next time.